What is up, everyone? I'm Ryan from Fireside Knicks, and the Knicks are coming off of 2 wins on this West Coast trip. We talked about how this team was going to need to, kind of rebound from that losing streak and kind of make us forget about that, right? They fell into the sixth seed. Things were kind of looking bleak. The Nets had beaten the Nuggets, and it really looked like the Knicks had buried themselves a little bit there. Thankfully, the Heat kept losing, so you're never really too concerned about that sixth, seventh seed. But now the Knicks are back in the fifth seed. The Knicks, I think, played really good basketball yesterday. Better basketball than they did against the Lakers, though that game, I think, was still a really good showing for them. And end of the day, man, I think this team just needed a game like that. They needed a little bit of just an offensive explosion where they could go out there, score a bunch of points, and kind of have a more relaxed fourth quarter, not as high stress of an environment. I think the big key here is over the last 2 games, Julius Randle has looked significantly better. No, he wasn't great from three yesterday, I understand, but, going 8 for 20 from the field, 8 for 10 from the free throw line, giving me 24 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. I'll take that any day of the week. I think he looked really good. There are a lot of really good positives from that game. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. But before we get into all of that, Dylan, how are you doing today, my friend? And tell me how you feel after these 2 wins.
Right, so I'm doing good first off, and that was a huge win last night against Portland. Big win. I mean, the Lakers win was huge enough, but that one was even bigger because now you go back up to fifth seed. Brooklyn had lost to OKC earlier in the night, so that's huge. So my thoughts about the game. So, first and second half was like night and day. I mean, the first half, I'm just gonna be flat out honest. It couldn't have gotten any more miserable than that. It was rough, very rough start. They were down, I think, like 15 or 16 points right out of the gate, really. They couldn't hit any shots throughout, like, the entire first half. I think they closed out the half shooting just, like, 35% from the field. It was not pretty. I mean, they got on a little run at the end of the first half to cut the deficit to 6, which was nice to see. But the overall numbers in the first half were not pretty to look at. You know what I mean? But the second half, I don't know what was discussed in that locker room at halftime, but whatever it was, it worked because they looked like a completely different team out in the second half. They were hitting their shots. They were playing great perimeter defense. I thought the rim protection was phenomenal last night. Hartenstein had a good block. I know Deuce was playing out of his mind just on both ends. McBride had a career night, hit like 4 threes. He had 18 points. I mean, he had a fantastic night for a guy who lost his playing time when Hart came along, and then Brunson goes down and he gets his roll back and he plays like that. That's a very welcome sight to see. I know when Brunson returns, Deuce will likely be taken right back out of the rotation. But it's nice to see that Deuce was able to fill the void while we don't have Brunson. I know it's Portland. I know Portland's not like a crazy good team, but it's still an NBA team, and we know that Deuce has kind of struggled to translate his offensive capabilities from Westchester into the NBA. But last night was a pretty good glimpse of what he has been doing in Westchester all these times he's gone down there. And he did that last night. And I thought he was just phenomenal on both ends. And I think he was a big catalyst to the victory, really. Because, without his contributions, maybe we don't win by as many points. Maybe we don't turn it around as big. Maybe we don't even win that game. Who knows? But, bottom line, the second half was just a lot better than the first half. I was really encouraged by what I saw in the second half because the bench came in and stepped up. The starters were not playing as great. Julius Randle had a rough first half. He played better in the second half, yes, but he's still not hitting his threes of late. His three-pointer's not falling, but he did get in the paint a lot more. He started being more aggressive in the second half, which I liked seeing. RJ Barrett had a nice second half as well. I think he finished with like 24 points. Another solid game for Barrett. 2 solid games in a row. That's what I like to see. And I'm really excited what I saw from the bench. So I'm really excited to see if they can continue that trend as the season winds down. I think they have 11 games remaining. They're now back up to 5th seed. They have 41 victories. Second time they've been a 500 or better team in the last 3 seasons. So right now, playoffs seem like the inevitable, so now we kind of just need to finish strong and just, get that 5th spot. Keep winning these games. They have a big game against Denver on Saturday, but they have time to rest. The West Coast trip was grueling. They had games every other night, and it's on the West Coast, time zone difference, all that stuff. Didn't have Jalen Brunson for basically the entire stretch. They had Jalen Brunson for a half of the Sacramento game, but, other than that, they didn't have him at all. So hopefully these next few off days will give time for Brunson to heal and also, just have our team at full strength as we head down this final stretch. To wrap up the point, really encouraged by what I saw from the bench. Great unit. Hart was great. Deuce was great. Quickley was great again. I know Quickley started, but, obviously plays a lot with the second unit. That was great. Hartenstein was phenomenal as well. He had no points, but he had 11 rebounds. He was being impactful on the defensive end. So I just loved what I was seeing from there. I know Obi Toppin hit a few threes as well. Everything was going great in the second half. And that's what I want to see more of. What we were doing in the second half is what I want to see more of. It's a good thing that we were able to rely on the bench for that game when we don't have our star point guard. That's a big thing right there. So if they can keep playing like that, if the bench can keep playing like that, our bench mob is back, one. And two, we have an even deeper unit than we thought of, down this final stretch. So just keep doing that. That's what I want to see, because that first half was brutal. I don't want to see what I saw in that first half. I know some nights, shots just don't go in, but that was brutal. That was really hard to watch, and I was not very confident going into the second half, and they completely changed my mind about that in the second half because they looked like a completely different team and the team I wanted to see, and I was really impressed by that stuff.
Yeah, I think you hit on some massive points here. Number one, being resilient, right? Deuce McBride. Wait. That is his name. My brain is just fried right now. I'm just so used to calling him by his nickname. Like, that's not his first name. His first name's not Miles. But in all seriousness, Miles McBride is someone who has not, as you mentioned, has not been in the rotation much, right? He's someone who's, lost his spot, right? And I'm not sitting here and saying that when you lose your spot, that the appropriate response is to kind of, take it out and get upset at your team and be frustrated with the coaching staff and whatever it may be. But, it's definitely, you can understand as a human being that feeling of losing your job or losing your role or losing that opportunity that you had, and feel like you didn't take full advantage of it. And the Knicks asked him in this West Coast trip to step up, and he stepped up. It's not even just tonight. Against the Lakers, he had big threes as well. That shot is finally falling for him. You'll love to see it because he's a phenomenal defensive guard. It's not even a matter of, you feel like if he gives you league average offense, if he gives you anything better than awful offensive performances, he is a very valuable member of an NBA rotation because he's such a good defensive guard. And I'm pretty sure he can evolve as a playmaker still. So, you kind of look at this team, he's a young player on this team still, right? It's not like this is a, guy that's 30 years old. This isn't even an Alfred Payton situation where we're raving about his defense, but it doesn't really make up for the offense. His defense kind of cancels out his offense, but when he is able to contribute at all on the offense side of the ball, he is truly a really good player and a really good role player for this team. You mentioned this with, the game yesterday where you feel like you're kind of out of it and then the Knicks get back into it. That felt like a game the Knicks had to win. The Knicks lost 3 in a row. You win that game against the Lakers, you're like, all right, let's go on a roll now. Let's at least, let's kind of put that behind us. And that Blazers game felt like, oh, here we go again. It's going to be a slump. This team is going to go through a slump. And that's not what happened. They were able to battle out of it. They were able to get out of that, little rut they put themselves in. And that is huge. Winning games like that, I want to put such a large emphasis on that because winning basketball games that you're down in the count, you're down and out, you're out of your star player isn't playing. You need to be able to find a way to win games like that, even if it's against an opponent that has a player like Damian Lillard who can, just absolutely torch a defense, right? I feel like the Knicks did a really good job of, yes, Damian Lillard still beat them, but they did not let themselves, they didn't let that stop them from winning because end of the day, despite the fact that Lillard's an amazing player, that Blazers roster is not good enough that they should be beating you outside of Lillard. And that's exactly what happened. The Knicks were, yes, they gave up they got beat by Lillard. That's whatever. Lillard is always going to score a lot of points, but they didn't let other guys beat them. As you mentioned, the defense tightened up. The offense, the shots finally started falling. The Knicks shot over 40% from 3 on 35 attempts yesterday. You'll love to see that. And that's despite, as you mentioned, Julius Randle not hitting his threes, right? I think that shot is going to come around. And another thing, too, is I like that Julius Randle's able to be a positive contributor even when his shot isn't always falling. I felt like last year, and even the first All-Star season he had, if Julius Randle wasn't, his shot wasn't falling, the Knicks were screwed. Now it's like his shot cannot fall. It can struggle. He can struggle offensively. He can struggle to shoot the basketball. He can struggle to score. And yet, number one, he can still play a really good brand of basketball. And number two, the Knicks can still win in spite of that. Yesterday, the Knicks leading scorer was Immanuel Quickley, right? And that's kind of become the theme of this Knicks team. It's that mentality of, any given night, and I feel like any of these guys can go out and have a big night. And that's exactly what Immanuel Quickley did. Immanuel Quickley, I mean, he's the sixth man of the year. I'm sorry, at this point in time, he's been asked to do so many different things for this team. He is so impactful. He is so good. He is just everywhere. He's an excellent defensive guard. He's an excellent offensive player. His 3-point shots come around. He really looks like the player that a lot of, Knicks fans imagine he could be as a sixth man, and he's also showing he's a really good starting point guard too. If it wasn't for the fact that Jalen Brunson was here, I think we'd be looking at Immanuel Quickley and say, wow, this is a really good starting point guard, right? But you know what? Brunson's here, and he's got to embrace his role as a sixth man and as a closing option, and that's exactly what he's become. There are a few guys on this team that, or a few guys in the league, quite frankly, that just meshed with the lineup and improved the quality of play around guys around that improve the quality of performance from the guys around them the way Quickley does. He's a great glue guy. He's the guy you throw into any lineup with any of the guys on the Knicks, and that's still a positive net rating lineup. And that's just how good Quickley is. But with that being said, you mentioned it. They have a huge matchup with the Nuggets ahead. Yes, they have rest between now and then, but number one, it's a nice time to catch the Nuggets. They're struggling. And number two, it's still the Nuggets. It's still Jokic. It's still the guy who might go on to win his third straight MVP, something we rarely see in the NBA, rarely see in sports in general. This is a chance to really prove yourself. If you get Brunson back, if you beat a team like the Nuggets, I feel like you can kind of start pounding your chest and saying, we've beaten the Celtics 3 times. We've beaten the Nuggets twice this year. We've beaten some good teams. We are someone that not only you don't want to face in the postseason, but we can beat anyone. If we're healthy, we can beat absolutely anyone. What do you think about that?
No, I 100% agree. The big game against the Nuggets, I mean, Jokic is a superstar player. Obviously, he's probably the best player in the NBA right now. If there's all a debate if it's him or Giannis is the best player. That's free for you guys to debate. But at the end of the day, Jokic is an MVP candidate player, and if you can knock him off and get a big win against them at home, like you said, it puts a big statement. Like, yeah, we're a great team, and look at us, we're beating all these good teams with their star players. They beat the Nuggets right early in the season. Jokic did not play in that game, so people will probably have the argument like, oh, Jokic didn't play, that's why you beat them, da-da-da-da. But, if Jokic plays this time, which, it seems like he will, then, and if we could beat him, then that's, like you said, huge statement. Like, yeah, we're beating these guys, we're beating them with their star players. We beat the Celtics 3 times while they've been healthy. We've beaten the Sixers twice, beaten Cleveland twice while their star players are on the floor. So we're beating their legitimate teams, so doing that is a huge thing right there. And, to touch upon Quickley, he's been phenomenal, like we've said, and especially since the calendar turned in 2023, he's just been insane. He's elevated his game to a whole new level. Like, he went from being, a struggling bench player, because he was struggling to start the year. So he went from being a struggling bench player in the midst of trade rumors to an important asset to the team in just a matter of weeks and months. Right now, and like we've said too, he's elevated into that 6-man conversation, and right now he seems to be the front runner to win that award. Malcolm Brogdon's been phenomenal, but personally, I think Quickley impacts winning to the Knicks more than Brogdon does to the Celtics. And I say that because Brogdon's a great player, yes, but they also have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to rely on, Marcus Smart as well. They have the guys to that are there for them, that are the guys. Quickley at times, more often than not, is asked to be the guy on some nights, and some nights he's become that guy where he's the leading scorer or he's the most impactful defender. I don't think the defense compares either between Quickley and Brogdon. Quickley is like a miles better defender than Brogdon. Brogdon's a strong player. He plays with hustle and stuff like that, but Quickley is just I think Quickley's impact on both sides is much bigger to the Knicks than Brogdon's impact to the Celtics is, because I feel like if you don't put Brogdon on the Celtics, they would still be a really good team. They'd probably still be top 3 or 4 in the Eastern Conference. Without Quickley, the Knicks don't have a bench, and the Knicks probably would not be the 5th seed right now. You're probably looking at more like fighting for a play-in spot. I know it's just a bench, but having a good bench does go a long way to a team's success. So seeing how he's performed at his role this season, like you said, he's good enough to be a starting point guard. I think by now we all know that, and he's shown that, because in many starts this year he showed out. So he's proven he's capable of being a consistent starting point guard in the NBA. But Brunson's here, and you're obviously not going to take Brunson's minutes away. So he has to settle in that 6-man role, but he's thrived in it, and the thing with Quickly too is, you like we've mentioned this before, you can put him anywhere. You can put him as shooting guard, you can put him at point guard, you can put him basically with any unit, because no matter what, when he's on the floor, everything's different. Like he is a floor general, because when he's out there, the pace is much quicker, the ball is moving much quicker. Shots are going in. When they go on runs, they just kill you. They kill you with pace. They go fast. They get the ball. They get shots up really quickly. No pun intended, but they get shots up fast. So they really kick it up a notch when he's on the floor, and that's a big impact right there. I think we see it right here, because look how the Knicks are easily having. I know they're not a great shooting team, but they're having one of their best offensive seasons in quite a while. This is one of their best offensive ratings they've pretty much ever had. And every night you see, here and there too, you see the Knicks just like kill teams offensively. Go on huge bursts where they're just scoring nonstop, where it doesn't seem like the other team can stop them really. And I think Quickly plays a large part in that, because usually oftentimes when those big runs happen, he's out on the floor. He's the one, making hustle plays on defense. He's the one pushing the pace on fast breaks and on offensive sets. He's the one trying to get shots up as fast as you can. I know, you also want to get plays set up, but also keeping a defense on its heels is a big thing, because if you let a defense get set, then that's when you struggle to hit shots. I think we saw that last night, really, because, I know Quickly was on the floor to start the game, but, to start the game last night, they started off slow. They weren't really looking to get shots right away. The offense was moving very, very slow. They were running the offense through Randall for the most part, and it wasn't moving very fast. And shots weren't going in as a result. We went down big, and then Quickly started taking a larger role throughout the rest of the game. Shots went in much quicker. We were scoring in bunches. We were lighting up the three ball. Everything started to click. And I'm not saying Quickly is like, a perfect point guard. No, but he's a great fit. And I think his role is like perfect right now, because with the team we have, he just pushes it really well. And I think like his efforts get underestimated sometimes. He is someone that like you can like depend on when you need to. He's someone you can. Before we weren't sure about that. Like early in the season, we weren't sure about that because he wasn't hitting shots. He didn't seem confident on the court. He may say he was confident. That's great, but you could see there was a little bit of diminished confidence at the beginning of the season. Right now, he just seems more confident than ever. I think the Celtics game was the biggest example of such confidence. He's hitting all these shots. He's dancing on them. He's having fun out there. They ended up winning in double overtime. He played 55 minutes that game. He didn't look like he had broken a sweat. So he was just like having so much fun out there. And I think things like that go a long way for a team, because when you have a hustle guy like that who can just come in and get you big minutes, get you big shots, especially for a guy who plays on the bench typically. If you can get a guy like that who can do that for you when asked to do so at any given moment, that goes a long way for a deep team down a playoff stretch. And that's why media members and fans are looking at the Knicks like they might make a deep run, because they're watching what we're doing right now. They're seeing how deep this team is when they're playing at its best strength, and they're like, dang, these guys are actually really good. We shouldn't like just, glance at them and just move past them. No, we got to like take these guys more serious, So, yeah, just to wrap up the point, like, Quickly's a huge contributor, so I'm really excited to see what Quickly does in the playoffs, because right now he's easily playing the best basketball of his career, and I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing, because he's basically doing everything that you need him to do. He's gonna have a bad night once in a while, but given the circumstances of not having Brunson right now and stuff, I am really happy with what Quickly's doing. I'm extremely happy. I was happy with what he was doing off the bench already, but seeing him come in these spot starts while Brunson's out for an undefined amount of time too, so Quickly don't even know how much longer he'll be starting, if he'll even start the next game. But I'm confident that even when Quickly goes back to the bench, he'll just continue what he's been doing, because that's just who he is now. It's becoming a normal thing to see him consistently get 15 to 20 points a game, get a bunch of rebounds and get some assists, hit some threes, and play just phenomenal defense. That's becoming a normal thing now. This isn't like he's having a great game, it's just a once in a while thing. No, this is becoming normal, and that's what I really like to see out of him.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's his ability to impact the game positively in a myriad of different ways, in a myriad of different roles. And quite frankly, that's something that the Knicks are going to heavily value, especially in a postseason run. You look at, teams are going to be doubling Randall or doubling Brunson. Teams are going to try to, shut them both down. And you have a guy like Quickley who has shown he can be a high-level scorer. This guy can score, man. This guy can really score the basketball. He can do so at a high level. He can create his own shot. He can play make for others. He can get other guys open, get other guys involved. And, it's kind of been this team has really done well in terms of their ability to supplement their main talent, right? In terms of Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, we know they've had remarkable seasons, but kind of a really big point of emphasis here is that bench mob, as you mentioned. That ability to, have guys come off the bench and fill in nicely and take on another team's second unit and excel and dominate in some sense. Like Josh Hart. Josh Hart again yesterday, having another really good night. He kind of was quiet to start the game. I think his night kind of mirrors the Knicks night. Started off not so hot, shooting wise, wasn't shooting very well. The Knicks weren't shooting very well. And then once he picks it up, the Knicks picked it up as well. So, am I saying that Josh Hart finding his shot is the only reason why the Knicks won? No, I'm just saying it's a pretty funny coincidence. But Josh Hart has played winning basketball the second he's got here. I can't really say enough good things about Josh Hart. I can't say enough good things about what he's doing with the New York Knicks. The defense, the rebounding, the turnovers he can create, the shooting from three, right? He's just doing everything this team needs him to do. Again, I can't the playmaking as well. I mean, what factor of his game am I going to sit here? Can you sit here and even remotely complain about? Right? I feel like he excels at everything. And, is he elite is he an elite scorer? No. Is he an elite offensive player? Probably not. But is he an elite defender and a pretty good offensive player? Absolutely. And that's exactly what the Knicks needed. They needed someone like that, and you look at that closing lineup. We've talked about it before. A closing lineup where you have Brunson, Quickley, Hart, Randall, and Mitchell Robinson on the floor at the same time. Good luck with that. If you're an opposing team, even if you're the Celtics, even if you're the Nuggets, even if whatever top team, the Bucks, that is a tough lineup to try to score points on, number one, and to contain. They have a bunch of high-level threats from three. They have a bunch of guys who can guard, very versatile guards who know how to guard 1 through 4. Obviously it's tough to really be a 1 through 5 type of guard because especially with Giannis, that man is unstoppable. But in all seriousness, like, this team has looked so much better with Josh Hart. We can continue. I rave about him all the time because I think he's just been that important of an addition. But looking at a postseason sense, looking at just that bench mob in general, do you think Josh Hart is someone that is, spearing other guys potentially to do better on that bench mob, like guys like Mike McBride, guys like potentially, I know Isaiah Hartenstein's looked a lot better, and that started before Hart got here. But it feels like this team is extremely deep, and this bench is extremely deep. Where do you think this bench ranks amongst the league, and how do you think Josh Hart has played a factor into that?
Right. So right now, this bench is one of the better ones in the NBA right now, to be quite honest with you. There are teams with good benches in the league, but then there's like the Knicks who have, they only run a 9-man rotation, so they got 4 guys coming off the bench, but they just look phenomenal every time they go out there. And I know we talk about Josh Hart a lot, but I don't think it's really coincidence that the Knicks are 11-3 since Josh Hart came here. I don't think that's coincidence. You could, if you just watch the games, you will see the instant impact. I know he's not a guy who lights up the box score, but he just provides such an impact on the floor. He hustles, he gets rebounds. When last night we saw him hit some threes, so he's capable of doing that. We've seen him have 27 points in a game with us this year, earlier back in February. He moves the ball well too. He's getting some assists. He's quietly having just like an all-around phenomenal impact off the bench. And I know there's a debate if he should start or if he should keep coming off the bench, but the way I see it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's been just phenomenal in his bench role, and look how much deeper the bench is as a result. Why change it? Because I think personally he makes that bench a lot better. Quickley, ever since he came along, Quickley's been hustling. Everyone seems to be hustling on rebounds more. Quickley's been doing it. McBride's been doing it. They're hustling for rebounds. They're going in for offensive boards. They're fighting for those rebounds, making it tougher for opponents to just get easy rebounds. Hartenstein's doing the same thing. What I see more is since Hart came, I just see a much more energetic bench. Before Hart came along, our bench was pretty desolate. We didn't have much going on. We were one of the lowest scoring benches in the league. It was basically just Quickley, and then the rest were kind of just there for defensive purposes. And yes, the defense was great, but nobody could score off that bench, really. And that's an issue, because if you don't have any depth scoring off the bench, teams are just going to attack your star players to start and get them tired. And then once they're out of the game, then you're to their bench, and they'll just light up your bench, right? But I'm really excited what I've seen from the bench. I think Josh Hart provides that impact to make that energy more like fluid throughout that bench. They move the ball so much faster. everything's just moving like a lot quicker. Hart will get those rebounds and he'll go coast to coast. He's pretty tough to stop in transition too. So seeing things like that as well, just push the pace, score when you have the chance, take those shots, seeing that is really encouraging. I know Josh Hart there's probably times, Hart could honestly shoot the ball more. Sometimes he tries to look to move the ball too much. I'm not going to lie about that. But it's not necessarily a bad thing that he is trying to move the ball, period, because, on offense, we know we're not exactly a ball movement type team. We're pretty one-on-one centered. We're isolated centered. We're last in the NBA in assists per game, right? But, seeing, ball movement come out of the bench and just move the ball, get scoring, fast offense, hustle plays, things like that's encouraging, and it lights up the entire team because I mentioned it helps energize the bench, but that ultimately will energize the starters as well because they'll see what they're doing and they'll be they'll get excited at what they're seeing from the bench, and they'll be like, okay, these guys are helping us right now. We need to help them too and also step up, and that's what they end up doing. At times we see this Knicks team just go on runs where they can't be stopped, and I think a lot of that is because of Josh Hart. He just brings a new energy to the bench that we haven't seen. It helps too that Josh Hart is really good friends with our star player Jalen Brunson. They played in Villanova, and I think that's a huge thing. Some fans might think it might not mean much, but it actually goes a long way because the chemistry right there is already built. So then they're just out there having fun. They know what they're doing. They know how to torch teams. And to wrap up the point, I'm just excited to see what Josh Hart will do come playoff time. I'm excited to see how the bench will do come playoff time. I'm curious to see what kind of role Hart will get in the playoffs because I think we know by now he's going to get a large portion of minutes. He's going to get a lot of minutes. He's going to get those closing minutes. He's almost certainly going to. So seeing what he's been doing, I'm hoping he continues this, which I expect him to do because he plays his tail off every game. He does. He's a hustle player. He's a guy you want if there's any player that you want that he might not light up the box score, but he'll hustle and he will give you 100% effort every single game he plays. Josh Hart's that guy. He will give you 100% every single time. And I think that goes a long way. I think teams really need to value players like that, and I think it's a big reason why I'm happy the Knicks got him, and why I think the Knicks should and probably will end up re-signing Josh Hart in the offseason because, like I mentioned, it's not a coincidence that we're 11-3 since he came. It's not. It's clear that he's a big reason why. The team was about 500 when he came here, and ever since he came here, we've become just suddenly like a serious problem, a serious contender. Just him alone made the team so much deeper. And I think it's been showing every single night, day in and day out. And I'm really excited to see how that continues as the final stretch comes and what happens when we enter the playoffs, And I expect it to continue. I hope it continues. And, it's a lot of good stuff to talk about, We talk about, like I said, we talk about Hart all the time, but he is that impactful. He's that impactful. He's worth talking about because he makes such a difference. You could see it in everybody else. They've tried so much harder since he came. The effort's phenomenal. I haven't seen the Knicks have this much effort really all season long. They're fighting for rebounds. They're trying their tails off on defense. They are really, really getting it going. They're looking to score. They're not looking to just beat you. They're looking to drill you into the ground. They're looking to destroy you. They're looking to just dominate from tip to the final buzzer. So I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing. I'm just really excited for it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned, this team has, as you mentioned, just that ability that, yes, they're not an elite level offense in terms of being 1 or 2 or 3 in the league. But they have those games, man, and especially since the start of the new year where they can just torch a team. And as you mentioned, if it's broke, don't fix it. Josh Hart, I think, is more than capable of starting on a really good team. But why mess with that? All that matters really is that he's closing games. That's really all that matters. The minute distribution I think is fine right now. in the playoffs, we'll have also there is a lot of time before the playoffs, so maybe certain guys turn around or certain guys start slumping. There is a legitimate question to be had about Quentin Grimes. There's a legitimate conversation about his struggles that are becoming more prevalent. Do I think he can turn around? Absolutely, but if he doesn't by the time the postseason comes around, maybe we have that conversation. But for now, it's working for the Knicks, so I don't want them to tinker with it too much. Just give it yourself a little bit more of a run with this minute distribution, and then wait till the postseason to make massive adjustments. But with that being said, man, look, again, big matchup with the Nuggets. I think these last two games are good indications that this team is, they aren't just reeling from those 3 losses. This team isn't just falling back to earth. This team was able to get itself back on its feet, get back that 5th seed, and remind people, this team is not one to be messed with. If you have any final thoughts, let me know, Dylan, because, so far, I think that we've gotten to talk about a lot of things regarding the Knicks, and more importantly, I think there's a lot of positives to take away from these last 2 nights.
Right. I just want to say is it's fun talking about winning. We've won the last 2 games. It's fun talking about winning. When we were on that 3-game losing streak, it's not fun to talk about losing. Nobody wants to talk about losing. And the fact that we get to go right back to talking about winning because this team has been resilient and they just fight back after 3 tough losses. That's phenomenal to see, and it gives us great stuff to talk about because we're really excited about this Knicks team. We're not just sitting here thinking like, oh, the Knicks are good right now, but are they going to get far? No, we're excited to see what they do. We're excited. We have confidence that they can get far. Do I think they're really a finals team right now? No, because that would just be a straight up stretch. But I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing right now. They could, for all we know, get on a really good deep playoff run and maybe pull off some upsets and maybe shock the world really in that sense. But, we also got to be realistic at the end of the day. We got to hope, we know that they're likely not going to win the NBA Finals this year. That's just an unlikely possibility, but it's not impossible at the same time. So, of course, we'll hold out that hope for that. But we're also just encouraged by what we're seeing from this team entirely this year. It's been an emotional roller coaster to say the least. It's been a very emotional roller coaster, and I'm just glad that they've down this final stretch kicked it up a notch. I'm glad to see that they bounced back from 3 tough losses. You lose the game against Charlotte, they looked very fatigued. You lose the game against Sacramento. Sacramento's a good team. And I know we lost Brunson in the second half. And that probably stung a little bit. And that little looming hangover might have still stuck around in the Clippers game. But they bounced back great against the Lakers. Phenomenal win there. It was a gutsy win. But it was a good one. It was a good win. It was good to see Randall bounce back. It was good to see Barrett have a good game. Quickley had a nice game that game as well. And then last night, coming back down big and then just dominating the second half. They outscored Portland by 30 in the second half. They just dominated them. That's what I want to see. That's what I really want to see. I want to see them just dominate down stretches. Dominate in the second half, dominate in the fourth quarter, things like that. So just to wrap up the point, wrap this up. I'm very excited what to see. They got a big game against Denver, but it's still a couple days away. So, right now we'll just focus on resting these guys. Hopefully for that Denver game we have Brunson back because there is that possibility that he could come back for that game. If he's not back, let's just hope that Quickley continues to play how he's been playing. McBride continues to step up. The rest of the bench, the rest of the starters, they continue to step up. And yeah, let's just have a good final stretch run. We say it all the time. Let's have a good final stretch run, but seriously, we gotta get that. We gotta keep that going. Keep that same energy. Have that good final stretch because you want to end the season on a high note, so you enter the playoffs on a high note. You don't want to end the season on a bad note and then expect yourself to turn it around in the playoffs because they can gut punch you if you're on a bad streak in the playoffs, entering the playoffs, and then you face a really good team. That good team could just gut punch you because you're slumping and they'll take advantage of that. So you want to end the season on a high note. And I think so far they've been doing just that. They've shown their resilience like they have all year, never out of games. Some of them they've come back and win like they did last night. So I'm just encouraged by what I'm seeing. I know I keep saying that throughout this episode that I'm encouraged, but I'm really encouraged. It's been a big thing. It's been huge to see. So there's a lot of things to be excited about. Let's just keep it going. Keep the foot on the gas. We're in a new winning streak now. We've won 2 straight. Let's get another big winning streak going. Let's get it going.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Look, if you can go out and you kind of parlay this into a little bit of a streak here, not even saying, you win 9 in a row, but turn this, 2 game winning streak into, or I guess a 2 game, I don't know if you call it a winning streak, but I guess it is. But you turn these 2 games, these last 2 wins into a nice, a 10-2 stretch, that'll definitely play. That'll definitely play for this team. So, it's just about maintaining a high level of basketball. Now, don't look too far ahead, but now this team is 11-3 in their last 14 games, and they had a 3-game losing streak in that stretch. If this team plays like that, that they're gonna be the 6th seed, and they're gonna finish with a really nice record if they're able to go on stretches like that. We've talked about this team with consistency. We've talked about the importance of that. Now it's just a matter of over the next coming days, which I'm pretty sure we will record before the next game if it's 4 days from now. So we'll make sure we get to you guys regarding all your Knicks content, all you guys with Knicks updates, post game, talking about stuff regarding the previous games. We got you guys with everything you guys could possibly need, stats, highlights, all that stuff. We've got you guys on all of our socials: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and of course our YouTube page. And you guys can follow us on our Twitters. They're above our heads. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. You guys have been great with the support. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.